You should have a very clear reason for calling. That's called your hook. Like what is the hook that's going to bring them into curiosity to want to stay with me here? And so we teach a few keywords. You always want to say why you're reaching out to that person specifically. So if I'm reaching out to Chris Bussing specifically, it's because for a very specific reason, and I need to be clear what my reason is. Where I really honed what I think like led to my success as an SDR was valet parking. When you valet park, I think above and beyond any other service job, and I had a few service jobs over my career, the interaction's much like a cold call.
Of the 15 million in revenue I closed at Oracle, Google Cloud, and a startup, almost all of it was from outbound. And none of the big deals ever fell in my lap via inbound. The best deals never do. I had to pick up the phone, I had to send great cold emails, and engage on LinkedIn, and go out and get those deals. I see way too many reps making the mistake of hiding behind the comfort of relying on inbound to hit their numbers. But the reps who rely on inbound typically don't hit their numbers, and they never blow it out. And inbound is dying, especially with AI optimization and zero-click searches. Outbound always has been and always will be the lifeblood of any company who wants to get ahead in their market. That's why I'm really excited about what ZoomInfo has been doing these days. They're automating away all of the guesswork and the manual effort that is typically slowing down outbound sales teams and equipping them with AI that gives them more context and precision to reach out to the right person at the right time to generate more meetings and ultimately empower execution. ZoomInfo isn't just a contact database anymore. They've rebuilt themselves into an entire outbound system that helps sales teams generate and progress pipeline faster. It's what they're calling go-to-market intelligence. Translation: more outbound execution minus manual effort and guesswork equals more deals that'll change your quarter, year, and career. Go to zoominfo.com to learn more.
Colin Spector, SVP of Global Sales at Orum, leading people from London to LA. What a treat to have you on the podcast, where we talk about what it takes to succeed in tech sales. We talk cold calling, which we will get into today. But today we're also going to have the unique opportunity to learn from a top leader in the industry on what it takes to actually lead. And we're even going to talk about investing if we can get to it. So Colin, thanks so much for being here. And I heard you just survived a hurricane out there in New York City, right?
Yeah, no, there was a hurricane, I think it was Aaron. You know, every hurricane has a name at a certain level of storm. And so this was a named storm that just rolled up here. First major hurricane of the fall season that always hits the Northeast, usually Florida up through the Northeast, mid-Atlantic through Northeast. So we're all good. There was a storm surge. The waves were super heavy, but we're great, rocking and rolling here.
So succeeding on this path in sales like you have, moving up to the leadership level, I'm sure you've learned how to weather a storm or two, metaphorically speaking, and literal storms. But hey, let's start with cold calling. It's a unique opportunity to learn from you as an executive, someone who gets cold called all the time. I just thought I'd ask you, is there a recent example or an example in the past few months where you got a good cold call? Like, how do you like to be cold called? But maybe if we had a specific example that might be helpful.
Yeah. I love to be called from, first of all, like if the number looks like a good, clean number on my caller ID, like I will pick it up. I'm always curious. I believe in cold call karma as a practitioner myself, and that my team are also practitioners. And so if someone is, I guess, lucky enough to time their call where I'm not on a back-to-back meeting or I'm in like a place where I can actually answer an unknown call. My curiosity drives me to figure out like, what are people pitching? What are they selling these days? And number one, the first thing is figuring out like, are you a human? Like, are you here to scam me? Are you a robot? So the second I figured out it's a human. And so I always train my people to make sure you introduce yourself up front, why you're calling, say your name, say the company. Don't be so mysterious, just asking for the person and not, introducing who you are as well. Like knowing my own psychology and knowing the psychology of other people, like you're in fight or flight mode when you answer the phone and you want to reduce uncertainty as quickly as possible. This is what I teach, what I preach. People have different philosophies of thought here. Mine is definitely reduce uncertainty on who you are when you call, and be clear about like why you're reaching out specifically to me or to the executive that you're reaching out to. And so you want to have a really strong hook, or really strong reason and compelling reason to keep that person on the phone. And look, like executives are busy, but we're people, we're curious, we have problems that need solving, and that's why the phone still works. Good recap, good clean caller ID, state who you are, where you're calling from, why you're calling, and just be really clear, really concise. I like that old expression, be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. And if you're brilliant in the moment of a cold call, you'll agitate enough of curiosity to warrant a longer conversation, right? And you do that through your thoughtful discovery and qualification, and earn the right to that next conversation, which is what cold calling and SDRing is really all about. It's about earning the right for that longer conversation. And so the more you can show that you have worked hard to earn the right, the more likely an executive like myself is going to want to reciprocate. There is this law of psychological reciprocity that exists when you see someone has put the effort, when they put in the care, when they have the conviction, that you do feel this compelling need to reciprocate.
So if I call you, I'm not going to say, Colin, you're saying you actually don't like that kind of where like someone's just asking your name, but more you just get to the point, say who you are. Like, hey, Colin, this is Chris calling from Orum. I was just on your website and I saw you're growing your enterprise sales team. And I was hoping I could ask you a couple quick questions to see if it's even worth a larger conversation. Is that okay? Do you got a second?
That's great.
Colin, this is what I teach sometimes, but also I'd love your feedback. Like, does that actually resonate? Because you're the real deal. You're an executive out there.
For me, it does. But look, like every human's different. For me, it does. And I recommend you measure your connect to conversation rate. That's your percentage that of the people you connect with, where you even get to say hello to a fellow human, the human you're trying to reach, what percentage convert to a longer, meaningful conversation where you have an opportunity to really share why you're calling, to really go into some qualification or discovery. So if your connected conversation is healthy, stick with what's working for you. But the example you just shared is what resonates with me. It's what I teach, what I preach, and it works for our team. So
it's really good to get, the perspective of someone who Ray Dalio wrote a book, Principles, and you might've heard of him, but like value weighting things, like you want to listen to the people who have done the thing and are in high places and where you want to be. So it's good to get that perspective. And let's say the opener's solid and you give me an opportunity to share why I'm calling. But I'm curious when it comes to Orum, maybe it's a fun early opportunity for us to get a little bit into your value prop. I have a lot of admiration for your brand in the market, but how would you, if you were me calling you on behalf of Orum and I was now able to frame why I was calling, what might that look like? Would you lead with some pain-oriented, some problems and ask a few questions? I'd love to just hear your thoughts on that part of the cold call.
Yeah, so you should have a very clear reason for calling. That's called your hook. Like, what is the hook that's gonna bring them into curiosity to want to stay with me here? And so, we teach a few key words. You always want to say why you're reaching out to that person specifically. So if I'm reaching out to Chris Bussing specifically, it's because for a very specific reason, and I need to be clear what my reason is, right? So why am I reaching out to you? Well, I see you are and let's just give an example, say head of sales at X company. You're my key account. I have been focused on transformation for your go-to-market organization. I already spoke with these 3 people that work on your team, hey, I saw the recent funding announcement, and your CEO mentioned these 2 points as top of mind initiatives of where you're going to be putting that investment. It's a key area of focus for us. I'm curious what else you're looking at, what else you're thinking about so far, or if that is also the biggest challenge you're facing in your role right now. Do you have a few minutes now to chat about this, or? Happy to schedule a longer conversation as it makes sense to you. And you'd be like, where are you calling from? What is this? And then you go into, I'm calling from Orum, AI live conversation platform focused on AI coaching, calling for your frontline sales team. Curious, like how are your people approaching the phone today? Do they engage in conversations like the one we're having right now? Oh, what is it, like a phone system? Yeah, it's like a phone system, exactly, and a coaching solution. Do you guys do any coaching and training over there? So you keep going. They're responding. They're trying to reduce uncertainty, and there's this natural kind of evolution that happens in the call. And so you want to get past that, like, uncertainty reduction moment. And there's this moment where people just like, okay, like I'm done fighting or fleeing. Like, and now I'm like, okay, like, what's this guy about? Like, he clearly sounds like, or she sounds like know what they're doing, right? Like the rep knows, they said the person calling sounds like they know what they're doing. I'm willing to hear what they have to say. First of all, they took the effort to call me, to connect with me. They got past my, like, where'd you get my number? Why are you calling me? Who are you? What company? And those are the brush offs that come after the intro on a cold call, 90% of every cold calls. And so once you're past those brush offs, and you've warranted at least a 30-second conversation, you'll have an opportunity to really present your conviction around why you're calling, and then let your curiosity drive you of what you don't know the answer to yet. Like, what do you need to find out from Chris that's going to tell you to have even more conviction that you can really help them and book a meeting and get them excited about booking a meeting and having a consultation or a strategy session or a demo or a discovery, whatever that next step is, and you want to be clear on like what you are after. Like, what is your goal? Is your goal to book a demo, a discovery call, a longer qualification call? Like, you need to be very clear going in. And when you've got a really clear line of sight of what you're after, it makes it easier for you to navigate, because the person's like, they're kind of just going with you. And so you really have to guide them through the call and take them through the spectrum of emotion, where they're going from, fight or flight to like, okay, I'm like engaging what's going on. They're asking me questions. I'm responding. I'm asking them questions. Where is this going? I don't know where this is going, but they're taking me there. And then, okay, this is interesting. Okay, yeah, I'm familiar with them. Okay, that makes sense. Sure. Today's not good, but we can do, Friday. Or, hey, can you send me some information? Happy to send you information. We found that, information like this in an email typically leads to more questions than answers. How about we schedule a live call to go through that information together? And I don't want to crowd up your inbox any more than I already have. I've sent you 4 emails before this call. And so, yeah, all easier said than done, but there is this just flow that happens when you get into conversations. There's this natural curiosity that, like, if you really have a great solution that you believe in and you've done your upfront research, it helps just unlock with the person the willingness to meet. I'd say, like, reps that struggle, maybe they're not so clear on why they're calling that specific person. So, like, before this, you need to get clear on your targeting, like why you're calling those people, those companies. And the more clear you are, the more understanding you have. And I'm not saying you can't be successful just doing this. There are obviously outsourced sales agencies and people that just cold call, and they're wildly successful. There are people that are just great no matter what you sell. But for the vast majority of sales professionals, you got to learn, you got to be totally sold on what you're representing and know your value points, know the pain points, know the people and companies you're reaching out to. I'm talking about like really thoughtful B2B, mid-market and above selling, even SMB selling, people that really care about their own business that they own. The more you can show that you care too and you want to help them genuinely and authentically, that's going to shine through. So long answer, a lot to capture in a session here, but yeah, that's cold calling.
Tech sales is an amazing career path where you can make as much as doctors and lawyers without having to cut anyone open or work ungodly hours. Looking back 10 years later, having personally started out in tech sales at Oracle, then moved to Google Cloud and a startup, and now fully launching into entrepreneurship, I can say with confidence that tech sales transformed my life through the income that it produced, the skill development, the connections, and the self-development that I unlocked unlocked along the journey. If you're someone who wants to strategically build your own six-figure tech sales career without wasting valuable time and earnings potential, then consider Tech Sales Accelerator and our 12-week programs as your blueprint. Our partners are breaking in and crushing quota at top companies like Oracle, Google Cloud, VMware, and Salesforce, leveraging our in-depth video content, one-on-one coaching, community, and network access. And we'd love to partner with you too to accelerate your own success on this path. If you'd like to learn more about Tech Sales Accelerator and our programs, then feel welcome to book time at my Calendly link, linked in the description of this video, and we'll walk you through all the details. Or just download my free cold calling system that's going to help you crush the phones quickly, also linked in the description of this video. All right, let's get back to the episode.
What an amazing, cold calling clinic, basically. And throughout that, I wanted to comment on things, but I'm like, just Chris, hold back, let him flow. It was so good, man. There's so many things I could acknowledge, but my experience, if I was receiving your cold call, is Colin is a professional. He did his homework. He is highly intentional. He's just not spraying and praying, but he reached out to me in my role and to my company for a reason. You're following your curiosity, which I even hear Jeff Bezos in podcasts saying, I followed my curiosity, like the ultimate superpower in sales, business, and in life. And you made it feel like just a natural flowing conversation. And the prospect doesn't even realize that you're guiding them intentionally on this journey, this emotional journey that ultimately leads to setting up a meeting. And I loved when you said, you really appealed to logic. Like, I've already sent you emails. It probably doesn't make sense for me to send you more. How about we have a conversation? I like that line, that you're probably going to just have more questions than answers if I'm sending you information in your inbox. So you also unpacked the importance of believing in what you're selling. And I heard Mark Hunter, who's a great keynote speaker that I had on the podcast not too long ago. And he said, if you know you can help someone, you have an obligation to reach out to them. And talk about transforming any cold call nerves for the young callers out there into an opportunity to serve. And so I wanted to ask you about your conviction in Orum, because clearly you chose to come to Orum, and I wanted to hear from you as a leader. What do you love about the platform? What drew you to the opportunity? And I will say that we'll probably talk more about Orum later, and I do want to ask you about objection handling, but we'll put a pin in that. And maybe we can talk about just what drew you to Orum and what excites you about Orum and what makes you really believe in the technology.
Yeah, no, Orum's awesome. Orum's amazing, and every year it just gets better and better, and it continues to impact sales professionals, and that's why I signed up for Orum now 6 years ago. It's unbelievable how much time has flown. And you're right. Like, I had a choice, and I have a choice every day to come and stay and work here and be here and hang my hat here. And I love helping my peers. I am passionate about the career of selling, the profession of selling. And I've always loved just helping my fellow sales peers. When I was an SDR, when I was an AE, I, as quickly as I could, wanted to become a sales manager and coach. And so I could impact others in different ways. And you can W-2 anywhere, right? If you're good, you can W-2 anywhere, and being able to hang your hat and your being able to hang your headphones at a place that you are genuinely and authentically passionate about, that is a real product that's really helping people. Like, that's the best of both worlds. And you top that off with working with amazing people that you genuinely enjoy working with. You got to love the people you work with, love the people you do it for, love what you sell. Like, you get a trifecta of amazing energy. And that's what's kept me at Orum over the years, is the people, the technology, the market in whom I serve. And, and I've looked at over the years, like, thought about, would I want to go back to HR tech? Would I want to go sell fintech or security or other solutions? And when you're great, you do get blessed with opportunity. And, but I think, like, for me, there's just something about sales and selling and helping this market, this opportunity, that has kept me, like, super excited. And the product just gets better and better every year. It's like selling a new product. And in fact, now we are selling a whole new product, which I'm even more passionate about, which is around coaching, which is why I got into this into the first place. So it's all about coaching sales professionals. And so it's got me with like a whole new energy and focus on this. So for those who are unaware of what Orum does, we're an AI, what we call an AI live conversation platform. It's the smartest way to connect into live conversations with your target market. And so we have a suite of AI features that support your people getting into live human conversations over the phone. And now we wrap around those conversations AI coaching, AI enablement. So we help prepare you before the call with coaching, we help you during the call, and we help you after the call with insights, learning, scoring to ensure that you're really being effective over the phone. So
wow, yeah, I'm very passionate about coaching myself, and it's cool to see that you are able to lead a sales organization and champion a solution that is directly in line with your purpose. You're called to help people reach their potential, set huge goals, and we'll talk more about that later. But I am following my curiosity to understand, like, maybe a little bit of the sausage making of how does this work, especially this AI coaching. It sounds like it can prepare someone, it can give feedback after. We don't have to get too in the weeds, but maybe a little more into how the tech actually works and some examples.
Yeah, sure. So a great example, let's say to get ready for a call. First of all, you have an AI agent, which you can spar with that specific type of call that you're about to go into. So if you're about to go into a cold call, you can spar with the agent a specific prompt that is related to the industry you're about to call, the account, maybe even the specific account, personas. You can prompt it to the level of detail that you'd like. I could prompt the AI to represent having a specific competitor and ask these specific questions, or I can have the AI surprise me given some more market context aware data. The beautiful part about Orum, because all the conversations are happening inside of Orum, we have all of the context in our conversation asset for your company. So if your client, you're having all your calls happen on Orum, you create this rich data asset of conversations. And from there, you can create the enablement experiences. So it makes it easy to prompt the AI versus, let's say, a standalone kind of ChatGPT, type of experience, which you can totally do on your phone. Within Orum, within the workflow, it's got all the conversation data there, all the transcript data, the type of questions, type of responses. So the AI is going to be prompted to a level that you just can't get off the shelf somewhere else. And so I can go in and emulate a real world call that I'm very likely about to go into. And then, and so I can, dust off the cobwebs. I can get out my marbles or whatever, expression you want to use to get really sharp. It's like hitting the driving range for a few swings before you're going on the course, right? Like I want to make sure my swing's dialed in, my pitch is dialed in, I'm ready to go. And then when I go into that call, that strategic call, I'm ready for it. And so I could set that for cold call, a follow-up call, discovery. You can even practice sharing screen and doing a demo. We have AI avatars that will actually react to your slide presentation and acknowledge which slide you're on, et cetera. And then you get feedback on all these calls. You get scored on the call. So am I freaking nailing it, or do I need to improve some areas? And then we'll surface up the specific areas that you need improvement on. And so that's all before the call, or even after a call, you'll get feedback and score, and similarly, just like you would on a role play. And so during a call, your sales leader can DM chat you within Orum, some assistance. We have what we call our sales floor, where you can be in kind of a video experience like this one, and your peers can listen in just like you would on a real sales floor.
Yeah.
Like, when I was in SDR, we used to have like hardwired phones, not to date myself
me
here.
too, by the way, when I started 10 years ago at Oracle. Yeah.
So there was like a magic like splitter that your manager could come, like they'd walk around with a headset, and then they could come like plug into your splitter and listen to your full call.
I happened to have that when I started out. Yeah, that was something else, man. My manager's listening in. We even did some at Oracle exercises where I was sitting in the middle of my whole team sitting around me, and I had to make a cold call, and I left a voicemail, and they're like, "Chris, why were you so serious?" And I'm like, "That's when I'm nervous, I get serious." But like, I'm not gonna lie, it was nerve-wracking. My whole team was watching me in the center, but that's good stuff. And when you hear the chatter on the sales floor, You know, that's contagious. You hear how someone handles an objection, but you're saying that through Orum, you can do that virtually.
Yes, you can do it virtually. So you can get that live help virtually. And then now with AI, you can even serve up little cues. So if the AI, if we have, let's say, two-sided call monitoring on, so some regions you can only monitor the rep audio, some regions you can monitor both rep and prospect audio. There's a lot of kind of changing compliance and laws, country by country, state by state. And so if you're calling into a specific region that allows for both side audio, then if the prospect's saying a certain keyword, well, then we can prompt up some information, some context for the rep to reference while they're live on the call, for example. So if I want to reference maybe a competitor response or a certain case study that's relevant to the words that have been said in this call, then you get some live support that way as well.
Gosh. And one thing that stands out to me is the ability for Orum to help sellers prepare so that they're not caught practicing on the court. That's the last thing we want. We are, I know this is overused, but we're corporate athletes in sales, and athletes are professional doers. And they're like, I played baseball and they're taking practice swings over and over in the batting cage. And we need to do the same thing with role playing. Again, we don't want to be practicing on the field, on the court. And the fact that your technology can enable that at scale for enterprise organizations is pretty cool, right? Because coaching, I love coaching. I know you can tell you do too. But to be able to scale that coaching with technology is very powerful. So no, I just, I've really admired Orum for a while, and it's cool to hear your perspective on how it actually works. And there's even use cases that I didn't think of, but this can apply to discovery calls. And are there any other, before we get back to objection handling, are there any other like niche use cases that they could be newer or someone would never expect that Orum could help with?
Yeah. So, I mean, talking about the coaching side, so there's this whole coaching portal where you get each salesperson has their own profile in the portal, and then we'll show you their trends, their insights week over week from an activity perspective, conversion rate perspective. And then because we're now scoring all of your calls using our sales wisdom and best practices, the Orum framework, you get out of the box on your opener, discovery, objection handling, closing, your tone, how clear you are, your cadence. And so you get feedback and a score on all these key areas out of the box. And so after every call, which is before, without AI and technology, it was unheard of. You maybe got feedback on one call a week if your manager was good and lucky and had time to help you. Now you're, as a salesperson, empowered with more data than ever before, and it's served up to you in a really elegant, easy experience that like you're already there, you're already enjoying the platform. Now you get like an instant feedback score after a conversation where at minimum, if we can hear your audio, we'll score your tone, your side of it if at minimum, and we can customize it if there are specific scripts or talk tracks that you're required to say. So like a lot of businesses require the rep to state in the beginning, hey, I'm calling you on a monitored line. Or if you want to test different openers and your rep adherence to those openers, or if you're using a very specific methodology and you need your reps to stay on track in asking the questions with that methodology, let's say BANT or MEDIC or you Challenger Sale or Sandler, whatever scripting you need, you can customize the prompt to watch and score if the rep has hit on those key points that you require. And then if they're not, they're going to get a low score on that part of the call. Then for the manager, they're getting a summary report from the last week, how you scored on activity, how you scored on your conversations. And so it's just creating this amazing complement from a performance reporting and management perspective. Whereas like people are used to Orum at this point, we've been blessed that we've built our brand. As you mentioned, our brand, they know us for being best ever at making phone calls. Now it's not just making the calls. How can we complement that by making our people better at those conversations? That's wrapping coaching, performance feedback in areas to improve in practice. So.
Yeah, it's so cool to hear how you've evolved. And now that making the calls, I think you the leader in that space, and it's so important, but yet you're still evolving and expanding. That's what any great company does. So no, it's so fun to hear from you about Orum and the platform and what y'all do. Let's get back to objection handling.
Sure.
There's so many objections. We have knee-jerk objections. I'm running to a meeting. I'm busy. We don't have the time to do that, all of it today, because I do want to, there's going to be some great insights on your journey from valet to VP of sales or SVP of sales. So we'll get into that. But let's pick maybe one objection. Companies are going to run into prospects who are ingrained with their competitor. Back when I sold at Google Cloud, my highest potential account OfferUp, it ended up working out with them. It all started with a cold call. They were ingrained on AWS. So I did some homework, and I knew, looking at the data, why AWS customers strategically moved to Google Cloud based on certain business initiatives. I found, okay, they're expanding globally. We're differentiated there because of our network. And I was able to kind of value match that. And when Arian picked up the phone, he said, we're all set on AWS. I was able to go with it and say, Arian, not a problem. I expected you'd say that. I did my homework. I know you're on AWS, and they're a solid platform. They invented the infrastructure market. They do a good job. However, I was reading about your global expansion plans and looking at the data. Quite a few of our customers moved from AWS to GCP for that reason, because of our proprietary network. I'm curious, how are you planning to handle your global expansion into Europe? I just shared a mouthful with you, but that actually did work in that moment, and it led to a 10 million over 3 deal after, it was like 6 or 8 months later. And so that's how I handle that in the moment. But I'd love to there's no silver bullet, as we know, in sales.
Sure.
Let's look at your example for like Orum. And through this, we can learn a little bit about your differentiation too. So it's like, who is a competitor you might run into? And if I said, okay, we're all set on X competitor, how might you think about it? Would you do something similar? Would you do something different? I just love your thoughts on this exercise.
Yeah. So regardless of the competitor, first of all, you should know your competitors. You should know your differentiation. But
Yes.
I think what you did great there was you went with whatever they said, right? You acknowledged they said they were on that specific incumbent, and acknowledge that was a great decision when they made that. It's, you're familiar with them. And so, what we teach is you always want to agree and go with what they say. And you always want to stay calm, confident, like you've heard that a million times, that specific competitor, them well. And you want to then have conviction around your reason for calling and why that is the reason. With conviction, you're reaching out
conviction
in the first place, right? So, so there, like you said, there's no silver bullet. Like I'll give you a couple like takes on what we teach.
Cool.
And section is, we already use competitor. Let's say we already use AirCall, right? As an example. AirCall, super familiar. Like, how's it going overall from your perspective?
Oh, I like that one. Like, how's that working out for you? How's it going overall? Yes. Okay.
And just get a sense from them. They might simply say, it's great. No, it's fine. Yeah, I've been with them for years. Great. Like, would you mind if I briefly explain how we're different, and you can let me know if you're interested in continuing the conversation? So I like to use the upfront contract after the first objection, right? Or after like the main objection, in this case, like, we already use a competitor. Like, you might run into a brush off, or you might run into an objection, right? Maybe because in my intro, maybe I got off calling from Orum AI phone solution. So, okay, it's a phone system. I already have a provider. I'm on Ring Central. I'm on AirCall. I'm on Connect and Sell. I'm on Concert. I'm on Kixi. I'm on Five9. You name it. Alexander Graham Bell invented the phone. It's been around a long time. They're going to be on all kinds of phone systems. And so you figure out your top ones, but just let them tell you, how's it going?
Right? Yeah, that's good. You're going with.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. A company like yours, maturity like yours, I'm sure you guys are already with a solution. I'd be surprised if you weren't. Curious, like, how's that solution going from your perspective?
Well, it's getting the job done. It's not perfect, but it's getting the job done.
Oh, not perfect?
Yeah, we're having issues with, like we were promised a certain connect rate. I'm making this up, but like connect rate, and it didn't really, at X%, and it's not quite there. Like, it's doing well. It's better than we were, but not where we thought it would be. And we're trying to figure out how we can, better enable our reps with technology in general and coach them up. And I feel like it doesn't really help with those areas.
Got it. Wow. Would you mind if I briefly explain how we're different from that experience? And you can let me know if you're interested in continuing the conversation.
Sure.
Great. And then you go into differentiation from there.
Yeah.
Right. And so in this case, if we're talking about improving connection rates, improving call deliverability, I might have a story lined up focusing on improved connect rates when switching from, let's say, an error call to an Orum, right? Say, hey, I understand how you feel. I could say like, I don't know, SAP felt the same way, and until they found out that there was a better way to improve your connect rate than kind of sticking with the legacy players, that the air calls, the dial pads, the 5.9s, and there's some next gen AI technologies that really help with call deliverability, and it is an area that we're hyper focused on. Would you be opposed to a longer conversation to show you how we approach that specific problem?
I love the would you be opposed? I wouldn't be opposed to it. I love that line. That's good. And also, hitting on some really strong social proof. SAP, one of the best ERPs in the world, amazing technology company that's using you guys and they also were in a similar situation working with legacy tech. I love that you dropped relevant social proof and maybe an example of a company that the company you're reaching out to might aspire to be like. So, what a great example. I feel good about that. And one thing I'll throw in is that what I mean by that is I feel the audience, through this role play is going to have a strong sense of how they can adapt some of these principles to the context of selling at their own company. Now, one final cherry on top is I do like that you ask how it's going. And what I would do when I was selling was I would also even ask, like, what do you enjoy most about it? Or like get them actually talking pretty positive. And I feel like that then earned an opportunity to ask about, are there any gaps between where you are now and where you'd like to be with the platform? So that was one other thought, Colin.
Love it. No, I appreciate the reflection back, and we're all students of the game, and I learned from conversations like this one, and even your own approach, right, to the competitive objection. And like when you're deep in the game and deep in your craft, like you sharpen each other's skill and you find your different maneuvers. And like one framework, like just to give like one tactical leave behind for the audience as well. And I use this one in this example. You can use this anywhere. Feel, felt, found. This is a very classic framework. So it includes empathy. So this is how it goes. I understand. Hey, after you shared about the challenge with the connect rate, right? Hey, I understand how you feel. SAP felt the same way until they found out. You see what I did there? I understand how you feel about the connect rate, right? SAP felt the same way. So it's a way to bring in the social proof. That's the framework. Feel, felt, found. I understand how you feel. This insert social proof felt the same way until they found out there's a better approach. There's a better way. There's a new edge or angle to solving this big challenge. And then that can lead you, and then they're going to be curious, right? They're going to be like leaning in now, like happy to share, how they solve this until they found out like they can leverage AI to solve this. Would you be open or opposed to a longer conversation to see how they did it?
I love it. Oh, so good, man. Thank you for, and we're going to get to some broader inspiration in a second, but the real tactical takeaways already in this conversation that people can use to book more meetings. And guys, I want you to celebrate with us in the comments, and also make sure to, follow Colin on LinkedIn. He puts out great content. I was enjoying recently a post you made on, well, actually it might've been from a bit ago, but it's on your profile on 3 keys to building high performance teams, which we'll see if we can get to. But guys, make sure to follow Colin. And this audience is a bunch of SDRs and AEs and some sales leaders. Make sure to check out Orum if you haven't already. We'll link obviously the website, or you can Google it. But Colin, this is what it's all about, man. Like we're kind of role playing and sharpening each other. And I think of a guy, an SDR that I had on the podcast actually over at Ramp, and it was cool. He reached out after a year of following the podcast. It helped him break into the SDR role, and now he's an AE. And he told me a story of him and his roommates, like after hours, they were all at Ramp. They're like sharpening each other and practicing objections and role playing. So don't you think, like, one call to action to the audience is, guys, role play more with your peers. Let's hear some chatter on the sales floor. Like, don't you think, like, in addition to working with Orum and the platform, which is a very unique opportunity, don't you think we should be like role playing more with our peers?
Totally. Yeah. Look, you sharpen each other, and from role playing with the peer, I'm going to hear the way you might approach that. Like, there's many paths up the mountain, right? Like
yeah.
You said already, grounding us in this conversation, there's no silver bullet.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this craft. It's endless mastery. I've been in this game my whole career.
Yeah.
I've been in selling since I could sell Pokemon cards in elementary school. And
what an amazing story.
I've been in the game a long time, and I love it, and it's endless mastery. And that's like, you're an athlete, right? Like when you get into sports, you get into certain crafts, certain professions that just have these, like there's no limit to the craft and how you can refine it. And if you step away from certain aspects of the game, you get rusty if you're not sharp, for example, right? Like if I go into forecasting and strategy land for too long and I haven't cold called in a long time, I get rusty too, right? So it's not
seriously.
It's not like it is staying sharp so you have to constantly role play is the short answer. Yes, you got to stay sharp, whether you're practicing with an AI, like you would in a golf simulator or in a batting cage, or you're actually doing back and forth practice with a live human, a live coach. Like nothing can replace that kind of experience and exposure. So.
Yeah. And you got me fired up, Colin. And I just came out of the ice bath before this to boost that dopamine and get me ready. I actually did. So I awesome. Timed, but that's another example though, of a muscle you have to flex. And if I happen to work out at a gym that has an ice bath, but I go on a trip, what if I'm traveling for a few weeks? It gets a lot harder. And we can kind of atrophy when it comes to cold calling too. So we have to continually put in the work, role play, and practice. And so just to wrap up cold calling, I'm just nerding out, and I wanted to just share another thing that I have done in the past to get your perspective too, and see if it sparks any other inspiration. But when asking for the meeting, like, would you be opposed? I love the way you're asking for the meeting, to spending some time with our team. I like to sometimes drop in a statement to guarantee value and de-risk the meeting. So I'd say something like, at minimum, you're going to come away with some new insights that are useful to your business, and an open line of communication and access to our company's resources as an insurance policy for the future. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll throw in hey, we want to be even, I was selling Google Cloud and then went to an AWS consulting partner helping with migrations. And sometimes I even position myself as additional leverage for negotiation, even if they don't go with us. Now, obviously, I wanted to get in there and win their business, but in a way, guaranteeing value in the form of ideas and access to resources, and reducing risk and increasing options. And so that's another thing that I'd throw in. But is there anything else that does that inspire anything on your end, or anything else you'd add on, really confidently and firmly asking for and setting a meeting?
Yeah, look, everything we've talked about so far is very well supported in Orum. And I think what makes sense is to set up a screen share so I can actually show you what the experience is like. I'll actually make some live calls in front of you and spar with that AI role play like I was describing. Worst case, you might catch a new cold call line and have some fun. In best case, we actually do some business together.
Whoa. So you guys say that? That is so cool.
Yeah, look, we drink our own champagne, right? And so I'll show you my, and part of what you're selling is look, I'll show you my workflow. I'll show you or I'll bring one of my SDRs. Hey, I'll bring one of my SDRs to the call. She'll show you her workflow. She's my top producer. Maybe you'll learn something within your prospecting workflow that might be a good leave behind for you, whether or not we do business. Like you might learn how her click path in ZoomInfo and the tools that you use with your CRM and SEP and all this, or and how that flows to Orum and the calls you execute, et cetera, or even the script she uses or the objection handle she uses, right? So you're going to get a leave behind. You're going to get value in that meeting. So like, I think to the point you're saying, like, yes, like you want to have something that is going to be of value to them. Ideally, help sell the call, help get them hyped up on the call. And let's say you don't have like a whiz bang demo. Maybe your next call is like a deep discovery call. Like the more you can frame up who they're going to meet with. Is it a strategy session? Look, like on this call, like we go deep on strategy in your specific area. And at minimum, you're going to have a leave behind on what we talk about in that strategy session. I can even give you a heat map, once I get some of the questions answered here on where we think we can help. And worst case, you walk away with that heat map and it's yours to leverage or not leverage. And best case, it leads somewhere.
What a great offer you guys have, man. That's so cool. You could tell I got excited that there's clear value being offered in exchange for the prospect's time. So even if they don't move forward to the next step, they're going to have said this was very useful. And hey, if it's Colin Spector running the call, they're probably going to move forward. But I had a guy, he's an author, Anthony Iannarino, the author of The Lost Art of Closing and Elite Sales Strategies on the podcast. And he talks about that value for time exchange. And his book, Lost Art of Closing, basically breaks down sales into commitments, like mini commitments that stack up, including the commitment for time that we're talking about today. So I love your examples, man. It's so cool. Okay, I'm going to manage the time because we need to get you with a little time to transition before your next call. So what we're going to do, we'll go for like, it might be about 12 more minutes. Sure. We need to get into your journey because you went, from valet to SVP of sales, but now I hear you started out selling Pokemon cards. I loved Pokemon. And so I'd like to dig in your journey a little bit about like, how did you know sales was for you and what have you loved about this path? I'm just going to say, maybe we start here because it get people fired up. And then there's probably millions of lessons from your journey, but you clearly created transformation to break through to new levels on this path. So we'll get into that, see what else we can cover. So first off, can you tell us a little bit about how you stumbled into sales and like how you knew it was for you?
Yeah. So, in elementary school, I dabbled in sales early. My dad would buy like on eBay, a big box of Pokemon cards. And he's like, okay, like go sell these for $20 a pack.
Your dad was telling you to do that?
Yeah, my dad's having me go in elementary school hawking a bunch of Pokemon cards for my friends for $20 a pack. I'm like, all right. And I love Pokemon.
Yeah.
And so it was a way for me to buy more Pokemon cards was, from the money I earned doing that, I could, I would buy my own supply. So I guess it was my dad's strategy of like teaching me a lesson while getting me more cards. And so that was like my first like real sale there. And of course, you do the magazine drives and I did the Boy Scouts and we had different, fundraisers asking people to sign up for different events, et cetera. So I guess like you get some foundational skills going to people, asking them to take action on something or sell something. Where I really honed what I think like led to my success as an SDR was valet parking, because when you valet park, I think above and beyond any other service job, and I had a few service jobs over my career, the interaction's much like a cold call. You have maybe 15 to 30 seconds to connect with someone as you're greeting them when they get in and out of the car. And your goal is to get a tip, right? And like, there's no price on like what tip you're going to get. Yeah. But I have found that when you can make a real connection with someone, and that could be just the way you're smiling, that could be the way you remember what car they were driving, and you're proactive with them, that if you can figure out how to connect with someone in less than 30 seconds, then they're gonna more likely to give you a tip because they have like an affinity for you. Yeah. And so I felt like I like mastered that connection. I would always get the most tips as a valet.
Wow.
And my valet manager, and I eventually became a manager of the valet company, et cetera, et cetera. But my manager early on was like, dude, you got to get into sales. Like these customers, like they want to give you their money. Like, you got to go sell something. You got to do something with that. I was like, I hadn't really thought about a career in selling. And then I wound up taking a sales class in college at the University of California, Santa Barbara, UCSB. Oh. And the professor there was, he was one of the original founders of GoToMyPC.com and like the kind of original screen share products and Citrix Online, and a big guy in the Santa Barbara like entrepreneurship community. John Greathouse is his name. He's still around and still, I think, teaches at Santa Barbara. If you're a student listening, you should take his course. He's got a podcast as well, or has a blog. Anyways, he was big on not just sales. You got to get into SaaS sales. And so when I took his class, I was like, okay, this sounds like a really interesting like world of SaaS and cloud. And all these concepts were so new to me that, but it gave me like inspiration to go dig deeper and go find work in that arena. And so I did a little bit of entrepreneurship after college, but, had started a clothing company, specifically a medical device clothing company that helps athletes recover after working out. So it was like compression wear with smart textile technology that helped your body recover after working out. So a couple of friends and I sold that for a couple of years, for 2 years after college. And then that didn't work out long-term. So I went looking for a job and went looking for an SDR job, because that was the gateway into SaaS, into cloud. And a few friends had already made the leap, and they said, look, you got to go be an SDR. Like, that's the way to get into tech. That's the way to get into cloud. And so landed, on my feet at Namely after a lot of different interviews and different opportunities. And there's a whole story about how I got to Namely, but in the interest of time, if you're interested in that, maybe you can reach out to me. But yeah, like landed at Namely and just walked into the office. Like, why I chose Namely, like it was a room full of cold callers in New York City. It felt like I walked into a movie, a scene out of Boiler Room. Like, I literally walk in, everybody's hammering the phones, the CEO's hammering the phones. This was a Series A startup or Series Seed startup at the time that I joined. And it was like one square room, open format, and just like insane energy. And I was like, I want to be in this. Like, this is where I want to sell. Like, this is freaking amazing. And so that's where I got my start, just hammering the phones at Namely, selling payroll, HR tech. Nobody knew our name. And we made a brand for ourselves. We built that into a $70 million business. It wound up getting acquired by private equity. But that was a really fun journey, accelerated my career. So just to answer how I got to SVP, I mean, at Namely, like when you join, the other career advice is like, if you find the right company that is like on a rocket, it's the fastest way to accelerate your career, right? If you're working at a big company, the only other way to accelerate your career at a big company is you got to attach yourself to like the biggest initiative in the business. But we're talking about startups. You want to jump the ladder a few rungs. You're going to wear a lot of hats at a startup. And so, I was SDR, then I was AE, then I was a manager, and then I was a general manager over a specific line of business. And then they gave me my own region. And then they said, be the director over all of sales, training, and enablement. And then I got the call to take a demo of Orum. And while I was in this director role, just, looking at different technologies and Orum, I was just blown away by the demo. Like, I knew the founder. He also had gone to Santa Barbara.
Oh, cool.
And I just saw the demo. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had this as an SDR. Like, this was unbelievable. Like the power dialing and the phone technology. And so, yeah, the invitation, was extended to go help scale sales and, help the founders get out of founder-led selling and into like an actual direct sales motion. And so built that from scratch at Orum. And so I had to, over 6 years, I went back to an SDR actually, because I had a VP title at Orum day one, but I was an SDR again.
Wow.
Cold calling my own leads, generating my own demos, running my own demos, filling out my own security questionnaires, partnering with the CEO on red lines. I went and found external counsel to help us get that done. And then, as we started fundraising, we could afford to hire people for these specific spots. But when I joined Orum, I mean, we didn't even have an insurance plan. I was the insurance broker, and it set the payroll system up, the insurance plan up. The founders had just been 1099ing themselves. So there was definitely a startup, bootstrap experience. And now we're a Series B company working on our Series C now. And it's been a journey to get to an actual SVP level, so to speak. So
gosh, there's so much insight in that journey, and it's amazing you're the type of person who could dive into ambiguity and figure it out. You are wearing so many hats, and I know there's people in the audience that are going to hear like, I want to be a part of that energy. I want to rise up the ranks quickly like Colin. I can handle that. And so I even think it's cool that you had some entrepreneurial experience that I'm sure shaped you. And hearing about your valet experience, I was smiling because imagine if some of the sellers that you oversee and you lead at Orum, I bet they'd love to have pictured you or seen you in action as a valet. That would be a funny sight to see their leader back in the day. But okay, so I want to make sure we get you, we're going to wrap up here. And I'll create the possibility that this is not the last conversation we have. You have so much inspiration to offer, but let's talk about your calling to help people at a high level set big goals and reach their potential in sales. And so just in our final couple minutes, I just want to understand what that might mean to you. And like we could get a new example of a big goal you set, but ultimately what it means to set big goals. And it's maybe a key or two in unlocking your potential on the sales path.
Yeah, look, like the hardest part is setting the goal. Like, what is your goal? But once you decide your goal, like there's an old adage that the world is going to get out of your way. It is so true. Like once you decide what it is you want, but you have to fully decide what it is you want. If we're talking in the sphere of this, like if it's like, hey, I want to be the manager one day, then the world's going to get out of your way. Like every single decision you make every single day is going to get you towards that manager role. Like if you want to be you're an SDR and you want to be an AE, every decision you make every day, like there's an expression that discipline is focusing on what you want most over what you want now. Right? And if what I want most is that goal, let's say I'm an SDR, I want to be an AE. What I want most is to be an AE, then no matter what I want now, if I'm too tired to make some calls right now, I'm hungry, I don't know, I want to go see that show at 5:00. No, what I want most is to be an AE. So I'm going to freaking jump out of bed because I've been blessed to wake up today. I'm going to do what I got to do to feel happy and good. And I'm staying up late cold calling Australia after hours because I'm hitting my targets before the next guy or gal. So, there is, but you have to decide, and you have to be, of course, willing to be disciplined in attacking that goal and doing what it takes and being curious. And all easier said than done. In my experience, the hardest part is deciding and deciding like what it is you want. That's the hardest part.
Guys, it's time to decide, what do you want? And like Colin said, focus on that. If you really want what you want, you will prioritize getting there over short-term pleasure and distractions. And Colin, I saw you made a LinkedIn post on that too, by the way, so it resonated. And guys, just as we wrap up, make sure to connect with Colin on LinkedIn. Make sure to check out Orum. It's an incredible platform. And make sure to apply what you learned from this conversation in action. And in that process, I'd probably encourage you to watch this game tape a couple times to really internalize it. But Colin, you got to get going to crush your next call. Thank you for making time and for generously sharing your insight, your passion with us. And I can't wait to have you on again in the future. And to the audience, to your success in tech sales and in life, happy selling and happy living. And we'll see you in the next one.